At the end of last week's Parsha, God changed Avram's name to Avraham and Sarai to Sarah to demonstrate their new life's mission. As a covenant between them, God also commanded Avraham to circumcise himself. In this week's Parsha, VaYeira, 3 days after Avraham circumcised himself and started to recuperate, God came to visit him. As part of the visit, God sent 3 angels as messengers to visit Avraham, who then continued on to Sodom to overturn it and its sister cities. But before the angels reached Sodom, the Torah records a thought that God had with himself. How can he conceal from Avraham what he is about to do to Sodom? Why does God suddenly think about reaching out and conferring with Avraham when God never before consulted with any other righteous person? Perhaps the better question to ask is, what made Avraham so special that God thought to confer with him? God himself said that Avraham will be teaching his children to do righteousness and justice and follow in God's ways. While the future might validate God's choice of Avraham, it doesn't quite justify God consulting with Avraham now. Another possibility that made Avram special is that God just changed his name from Avram to Avraham, anointing him to be the father of many nations. Since Avraham was going to be the great leader of his family, a great and mighty family, God wanted to honor Avraham and consult with him in the same way that 2 leaders confer with each other. Still, this doesn't explain what was so special about Avraham that God wanted to confer with him now. To answer what was so special about Avraham, we can contrast it with Noach. The Gemara in Sanhedrin 108a asked about Noach. The Torah says that Noach was ish tzaddik tamim haya b'daratav. He was righteous in his generation. Since the Torah stresses Noach's righteousness in his own generation, would Noach have been considered righteous in a different generation? Rabbi Yochanan holds that Noach would only have been considered righteous in his own generation, while Rish Lakish holds that Noach would have been considered righteous in any generation. But the truth is that this question isn't a fair question. The Torah declaring Noach to be an ish tzaddik tamim haya b'daratav doesn't just mean that Noach was righteous in his generation. It meant that Noach was a perfect product of his own generation, for good or for bad. Noach, like all people, was a product of his own time and surroundings. Avraham was different. Avraham was an iconoclast. He went against the grain. He was Avram ha'ivri, the person who stood against the world. But while he went against the world, he did not do it to become a recluse, but to try to make the world a better place. He was presently pursuing righteousness and justice for all. It was this that God noted about Avraham, that Avram in the future would teach his children what he does now, following the ways of God, to go against the grain of the world, and to actively do righteousness and justice towards others. This is what made Avram special in God's eyes, and why he wanted to reveal to Avraham what he planned to do to Sodom. Now that Avraham had become the father of many nations, God wanted to give Avram the chance to be Avraham, following the ways of God, standing up, pursuing righteousness and justice for all, even for those as evil as the people of Sodom. Shabbat Shalom.